Welcome into the CHGO Blackhawks Podcast. I'm Jay Zawaski with Greg Boysen and Mario Tirabassi. The season is over. The Vegas Golden Knights are Stanley Cup champions, and the Blackhawks are on the clock. Thanks for being with us. Make sure you smash that like button on our YouTube page. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube page as well. Podcast listeners, make sure you are following or subscribed on your preferred podcast app, and then download some other podcast apps and then subscribe there too.
Yeah, even the ones you don't like.
Yeah, just any app. Just get them all and subscribe there, and then leave us 5-star reviews on everything, and that would be greatly appreciated. What else we got to say? That's it, right?
That's
in terms
it.
of all of our stuff. We've got our Father's Day sale going on at chgolocker.com. That's buy one, get one half off. All CHGO shirts. That's June 8th through the 18th. The deadline to guarantee Father's Day shipping has passed. However, you can still get your order in, and just do what I do. Crap, I waited till the last minute, print out the order form, and pack that up for Dad and say, it's coming soon. You'll get it when it gets here.
Yeah, that works.
Happy Father's Day.
Blame your faults on the U.S. Postal Service. It works.
Yeah.
It works.
There you go.
I swear
Exactly
I ordered
right.
it like a
Your
month
dad
ago.
will
It
believe
just
you.
hasn't shown up yet.
Yeah, just cross that date off the top there. And we've got our Nashville trip coming up as well because, something big's happening there. If you missed it, the Hawks are picking first.
Yeah, Garth Brooks is opening a new bar. Right
He
here.
is. Good for him, by the way. Join us at Hopsmith, Nashville on Tuesday, June 27th. We're going to have a happy hour and meet up before the Hawks make history. Each ticket includes all you can drink from 1 to 4 p.m. That's 3 hours, friends. Food and our new draft pick t-shirt when it becomes official. Diehards, you get 20% off. As always, regular price tickets are also available. ALLCITY.com. Come and join us. It's going to be a wonderful time. We're also going to do something a little less formal on Wednesday. Details of that to follow, but join us for this big happy hour at Hopsmith, Nashville. It's going to be a great time on a huge day and maybe the most important day in recent Hawks history, at least since June of 2015.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. And there was never this amount of hype or buzz back in 2007.
No.
When the Hawks had the number 1 overall pick, first of all, there wasn't as many fans that were into it. The coverage of the team was not as, in depth as it is now. Like the Hawks were kind of a forgotten, outside of the hardcore fans, they were a forgotten entity. And Patrick Kane, we love him. One of the greatest Hawks of all time, one of the greatest American-born players of all time, but it just wasn't the buzz. I mean, again, different time. You didn't have YouTube. You didn't have all this stuff where you could easily see highlights of guys.
Or Hawks games on TV.
That too.
That whole thing.
Yeah.
That usually helps.
Yeah.
But, this is a big, big day. And I think another difference is back in 2007, Patrick Kane was not the consensus guaranteed number 1 pick. There was a lot of debate.
He was the favorite, but it wasn't a guarantee.
Right, it was between him, James Van Riemsdyk, and Kyle Turris.
Yeah.
They made the right play.
Those are some names.
Dale Talon
Yeah.
made the right call. But I think, a lot of people probably back then were, he's too small. You got to pick the big center like Van Riemsdyk or Turris. And now, this time, there's no doubt who you're picking number 1.
Yep.
The first thing I ever covered, Hawks-wise, was that Patrick Kane draft. I was at the United Center. They had a draft party. It was very, not low attended, but it certainly wasn't what it would be if they did it this year.
Right.
And then I went to Connie's Pizza on Archer, where Jason Goff was doing a live show, and he put me on for a segment to talk about Patrick Kane.
Nice.
And I was trying to convince people, like, this is huge. This is the kind of thing that can turn a franchise around. And, they got Jonathan Taves last year, and this is a big thing. All right, cool. It was like a 20-minute segment. I appreciate Jason's the first person to put me on the air to talk about anything.
Yeah.
So that was great, but there was just so little. I was like, oh, cool, that sounds fun. It's
such a different buzz.
Yeah, we've been buzzing about this kid for a year and a half.
Yeah.
And now it's 14 days away.
We have been talking about next Wednesday night literally since our very first show last March. We have been headed in that direction, and to be there and finally see it, it's going to be awesome.
Especially in front of the Nashville fans.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I wait to feast on the booze. It's going to be great. The booze and the booze.
Just breathe them in. I just imagine like The Rock, do anything where he like smells the crowd.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be good, though. I mean, we'll see how much of a big Nashville crowd is actually there. We'll see.
They come out. I mean, they don't. where do they pick this year? They're not
They're
right in the middle.
Yeah,
Yeah,
in the middle.
not super exciting, but
right in the middle.
I think they'll come out. But I think you're going to see. I'll bet there's going to be a lot of folks from Chicago there.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope
I
they're all
hope
at
so.
Hop Smith
And I
on
hope-
Tuesday afternoon.
Yeah, hope to see him.
Yeah, that would be great. So come out and hang out with us at Hop Smith on Tuesday. But we'll be around. You'll see us around. We're going to be giving you tons of content from Nashville. It's not just the three of us. Casey, our social media director, is coming. Steven, our producer, is coming. We'll be doing shows all week.
Yep.
We'll have access and interviews and all sorts of stuff. So
there's promises of pizza.
yeah, oh yeah.
We'll
of course.
we'll be active all over the Twitters and the social media. Come find us. I'm gonna pack some of my most obnoxious shirts, so it'll be easy to find in
Nice.
Nashville.
Nice.
Promises of Pizza is my next book. That's
Yeah.
going to be the name of my next book. Yeah.
Wasn't
Yeah.
that a Tenacious D record?
Yeah.
Damn it.
There's a parody
Damn
of,
you, Jack
of Drops
Black.
of Jupiter.
Anyway, so Vegas wins. I don't know. We said this is going to be a great series, super close. I hope it goes 7.
Not,
It was just not good.
not so much.
It was not a good Cup final.
No, we've been seeing a lot of. Is this the worst Stanley Cup final of all time? I don't know
say
about
no.
that.
I say no.
It might. I mean, it might be the worst Stanley Cup final since the last time the Florida Panthers were in. And that one was pretty damn lousy too. I think the Avalanche swept them, and I think Panthers had 4 goals in 4 games. But we'll get into that. I mean, we're only 2 years removed from that Tampa Montreal Cup final. That Cup final sucked. So I know recent memory. I hear a lot of people on there outside of the ridiculous. Oh, I'd rather have Jack Eichel than Connor McDavid takes.
No, you
You're
wouldn't.
out there. Stop lying.
Vegas would make that trade today.
If Connor McDavid had been on Vegas, he'd have multiple cups by now.
Yeah.
It's called
Yes.
being on a really good, deep team with a good coach. It makes the world of difference. Had they traded for Connor McDavid instead of Jack Eichel, they would have won the Stanley
Yeah.
Cup this year too. But the other thing that I've been seeing is we heard all year the Eastern Conference is so tough, and then they fold in the Stanley Cup final of Vegas. Well, getting through that Eastern Conference took its toll
That's
on
it.
the Panthers.
Yeah.
You beat Carolina, Toronto, and Boston.
You had nothing left.
And you had, 20-plus games of just trying to get to the playoffs anyway. Thank you, Buddy Robinson.
Right.
That team, they just ran out of gas. And, when Paul Maurice was going over the injuries, Matthew Tkachuk played a game with a broken effing sternum.
That's
You should be in the hospital.
that's
That's
not bravery. That's stupidity. I'm
Yes.
sorry.
insane.
It's. I love this part of the season when you hear. I love it and also cringe
Yeah.
because you're like, what are you doing? But just hockey players are different.
It's a
breed.
different thing.
They're just. It's the ultimate team sport. They're gonna go out there as long as they're breathing. I mean, it reminds me of the story I've told here before, covering the 2019 Calder Cup final between the Wolves and the Charlotte Checkers, and Stefan Matteau, the son of the other Stefan Matteau, midway through Game 3, had a skate come up and get him under the rib. Played half a hockey game with a lacerated kidney. He had to go to the hospital and have emergency surgery after
The game.
Yeah, geez.
Gets
But
me
he
after the
finished
game.
the game with a lacerated kidney.
Look, we said yesterday, there's no way in hell Matthew Tkachuk misses this game. He's going to be, unless they tie him to a chair. And then we found out he was out. I was very fearful to hear what was wrong with him.
Right.
I don't know if I can think of a postseason injury as brutal as a broken sternum.
Well, and there's nothing to brace that. There's nothing you can do to patch it up,
Breathing
protect
hurts.
it.
Yeah, every
Breathe-
breath.
every move you make is
Yeah.
going to hurt.
I read that Brady Tkachuk had to get him out of bed so he can go to the pregame.
And he had to
skate
get
for
dressed.
Game
He
4.
couldn't put on his own pads
Yeah.
or his own skates or his own jersey for Game 4,
Like-
and he went out and played and scored the game-tying goal.
16 minutes. What do you
Yeah.
have? 4 shots, 6
Just-
shots, something like that?
Absolutely,
It's
insane.
It's crazy. I mean, it's just shows you how these guys are wired. It's insane. I could
Yeah.
never imagine doing something I mean, that's up there with, was it 2013?
Bergeron?
Bergeron playing with a punctured lung.
punctured lung.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hole in his lung, and he's
cracked,
playing hockey.
Cracked ribs. I'm sure he had some sort of wrist and ankle injuries as well, as it seems like everyone does at this time of year. But yeah, it's just we talk about the fine line that hockey players walk, and at this time of year, you figure out who has crossed over that line. It's just crazy. Aaron Ekblad, another Florida Panthers player, broken foot in the Bruins series. That was 2 months ago.
Yeah.
Playing with a broken foot for a
Did he
month
like
and a
sleep
half.
in his skate? Just keep the one skate on the entire 2 months.
two times he separated his shoulder and he tore an oblique. I don't know if you know where your oblique is, but it's pretty important in hockey for twisting and shooting and doing anything basically. It's just crazy, and the amount of injuries that the Panthers had that kind of came out after last night's game. Like, it's hard because like on one hand, you understand the toughness of these guys is at a different level. The opportunity to play for a Stanley Cup. Some guys play an entire career never getting an opportunity to do it. Some guys, they only get one chance to do it. So you understand that. But on the other side of things, you're just like, are you? It's no secret, like painkillers and pain meds and other medications that these players are exposed to aren't good for your long-term health. And there's a documented history of players abusing these things in career and post-career. And was it this morning or last night? The report came out about was it Guy Lafleur when he passed away? He had CTE.
Henry Richard.
Henry Richard. Yeah, Henry Richard. He had CTE. 19 of 20 players that have donated their brains to science all were riddled with CTE at the end of their lives. And man, it's just the line is razor thin between like toughness, warrior, and mentally unstable. And it's it's
part of the culture.
It's
though.
It's part of what kind of culture like hockey has established, and generations of guys, people playing through injuries like this and playing on this stage has caused. And look, if I know there's not an actual waiver form, but if you're doing that, you're signing the waiver form that says my future physical health I'm rolling the dice on it for right now. And it's that would be a hard paper for me to sign. But again, I'm not in their skates.
It's you put yourself in the shoes of these guys, and like they've been working towards this since they put on skates.
Yeah.
Especially you think someone like Matthew Tkachuk, whose father is Keith, and that you've got every asset you need to make it to the NHL, right? So you have worked literally your whole life for the chance to win a Stanley Cup, something your Hall of Fame worthy father never got the chance to do. And Chris is sort of saying in the chat here, like, broken bones heal, right? Like, you can get those fixed. You can just pump yourself full of drugs and go play. And it's crazy. It's nuts. But you can you put yourself in the minds of these guys of, I'm making, what's Matthew Tkachuk making, like $9 million plus a year? This could be my one shot. If I can get on the ice, I'm going to get on the ice. As long as I'm not endangering myself long term.
Yeah.
And guess what? Well, some guys don't give a shit about that either.
Right.
They say, hey, if I lose the last 15 years of my life, but I get to be a Stanley Cup champion, that's a trade I'm willing to make.
Yeah. And you also got to remember when we were all in our early to mid 20s, we all felt indestructible and didn't care. Oh God, but like being 40 felt like decades away, and like, oh, that's so old, and like you didn't care. You felt indestructible.
Yeah.
And you didn't put much. And we weren't professional hockey players at the pinnacle of the game. So I get it to a degree, but then there's other moments where I'm like, what are you doing? But it's the way they're wired. I mean, you see it, the years I spent scouting for the North American League, you see it in 16, 17-year-olds that take massive hits, and like they're hurting, and you see them after games barely able to walk, and then they get out there and play their third game in 2 days. It's part of the culture. It's ingrained. And, at the end of the day, you just, you hope for some sense, and you hope for a great post-retirement career. But as you said, getting your name on the Stanley Cup is forever.
Yep.
Never goes away.
Especially when that is what your identity is.
And for these guys, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
Because once you're on that cup, you're immortal. Your name lives forever.
I mean, look, if you can go back, and you could go to any sport really, and ask these guys they've got, titanium hips or whatever, and say, would you do it again? The vast majority of them say yes.
I mean, we just had Hall of Famer Richard Dent in our studio a couple weeks ago. I'm sure he's not walking around very limber these days. Dan, you ever seen? I mean, you have, but Dan Hampton waddles around, no knees.
His hands are just mangled.
Yeah, I got to shake his hand once a few years ago, and I wanted to scream. It was so weird.
They're like all bent out of shape, and it's.
But these guys that played football or hockey, or like look at pro wrestlers from 70s and 80s, before medical advancement, before off-season regimens, before people learned that like diet and certain exercises can help prevent these things. They're all walking around like Civil War vets.
Yeah,
but to all of them, it was worth it, and they would do it again.
It's part of the calculus. It really is. When you decide to make your life in sports, that you're cutting some years off. And I think that's part of the too, is the exchange for the money. And when people say athletes are overpaid, go take a look at some of these guys we mentioned, walking around, limping around for your entertainment. You know what I mean? Like they're only able to do it until they're at most 40, unless you're a crazy exception like Jaromir Jagr or Tom Brady or somebody like that. And
I mean, I 40 is like the exception.
Right.
What's the average NHL, NFL career in a sport like this is what, 3 years, 4 years?
Yeah, NFL.
Where you're playing at a high level. Like,
NFL, if you're playing in your 30s, you've accomplished something. Especially if you're playing out. Usually the 30s are the quarterbacks and the offensive linemen.
Right.
You don't see too many of the skills guys having effective careers past 30.
Running backs at the age of 30 are
retired
geezers at that point. Yeah.
I mean, you could say that about NHL when you look at the free agent class. Oh, that guy's 29. He's too old. I don't want him. Like,
can't give a 28-year-old a 7-year contract because he's not going to be serviceable for 5 of those years.
He's old.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the fact we got an Abdullah the Butcher reference. In our
God,
show
how do we
today.
get there?
Well, I mentioned pro wrestlers.
Yeah.
My favorite Abdullah the Butcher story is, you mentioned his forehead. He's got those deep scars from cutting himself all the time.
Gross.
He used to go. My first favorite thing about Abdullah the Butcher is his real name is Larry.
Larry the Butcher's less scary.
His friends call him Larry. But he would go to casinos, and he would sit at a blackjack table, and he would put the chips in the slots in his forehead and sit there just to creep people out. I love that.
You're probably putting the cards in there, too.
nasty.
He's playing poker.
So nasty.
Was Larry the Butcher the guy in Brady Bunch?
That was Sam the Butcher.
That gave the meat to
that
Ellis?
was giving it to Ellis. Yeah, that was Sam. the Butcher.
Yeah, Sam, that's right.
Larry's older brother. Yeah.
Yeah.
Larry's the cable guy as far as I know.
Yeah, there you go. And Chris says what's mind-blowing to him is how Tkachuk playing hurt was still in the middle of every scrum. Yeah, I said to my wife last night as the game was, I think, if Matthew Tkachuk was in the game right now, he'd be trying to kill everybody.
Yeah.
That's what would be happening right now is he'd be flying around. He'd be escorted off the ice. Another, 10-5-2 or whatever for him.
Well, it's like, it's crazy. Like if you have a broken sternum and you take any hit squarely to the chest, like you're talking about like completely separating your ribs apart. Like
Imagine
that's not good for you.
Imagine getting in.
It's
just
crazy.
Like bumping at a face-off has got to be agony.
Sitting in a chair,
Yeah,
sitting on the
anything.
bench, couldn't get up out of his bed on his own. Like
I just don't know
crazy.
how you get from Brady Tkachuk dragging you out of bed to on the ice and playing. I mean, painkillers, they've got to have just... But I remember a couple of years ago, I was on painkillers I threw my back out severely, not like I did Monday. And I was just out of it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how I would even... I wasn't feeling any pain, but I wasn't feeling any... I was like floating through the world. There's like this haze around me, and I don't remember getting to work.
Yeah.
When I was on painkillers. I went to work on painkillers, so I'm as tough as Matthew Tkachuk. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You went and did
Thank
your
you for
job.
noticing. Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah,
you two are like clones sitting right next to each other.
Yeah. We get
I
mistaken
almost
for each
called
other
you
all
Matthew
the time.
earlier this show, but
I'm a little more like Keith. Let's be honest about it.
We all are.
God bless him,
And
man.
speaking of large individuals, congratulations to 3-time Stanley Cup champion Phil
Hell
Kessel.
yes.
And I love Phil Kessel. Got in front of the microphone and told everybody to kiss his ass. Said, I remember back in Toronto when you guys said I'll never win anything, but last time I checked, this was my 3rd Stanley Cup.
Yes.
Kiss my fat ass.
Is
he
Steve
said.
Simmons
I love
here?
him.
I'd like to talk to Steve, please.
I love
Yeah,
him.
right.
I absolutely adore Phil Kessel.
Love
Congratulations, 3-time Stanley Cup champion. Put the uniform on and got to go out there, even though we didn't play. We played in 1 playoff game.
4.
4. Okay.
Yeah.
Played in the first 4
Not in
games.
the final at all.
No.
Didn't play in the final. No, but he played all 82 games this last
He'll
season.
get his name
so
on the cup.
His name is
he
on
got
the
his cup. I don't know what he's going to do next season, but my dream is to wake up and get to spend
In
an
this
82-game season going to
Yes.
work and talking to Phil Kessel. That has to
love
be
it.
a joy.
We know
I
you're
want it
listening,
to
Hawks.
happen.
I would
And
love
Phil, think about all the endorsement possibilities.
Oh,
Vienna
yeah.
Beef is about to open a new storefront.
Perfect.
I mean, it does itself. It's,
Yeah.
I know he likes golfing, so we can sell him on the beef sleeve.
and we can get
Beef
him hooked
sleeve.
up.
Yep.
You know,
That's
it's,
right.
It's perfect.
And yeah.
I love how much attention, and you just know the kind of character he is already. Like, it's no secret. But how many healthy scratches in the Stanley Cup final get so much media attention after the cup is won. And Phil was getting all the interviews because everyone wants to talk to him. Everyone wants to get his get in front of him, and I think it would just be the best. The second to getting Connor Bedard would be getting Phil Kessel.
Yeah, I would love that. I mean,
There's probably some things in between that might be cool
No,
too.
not at all.
not for this
Not at
upcoming
all.
season.
Not-
Give me a
This
Brock
this-
Besser, Connor Garland would not
No,
be
this
more exciting.
off-season
All right.
checklist for me is draft Connor Bedard, sign Phil Kessel, and
Yeah.
then everything else, it's gravy after
Yeah,
that.
We're halfway there.
I think I love it. I mean, because Phil Kessel's an everyman. Phil
Yeah.
Kessel is like if one of us was an elite goal-scoring hockey player.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, he's not.
Oh, I'm an elite goal scorer. I'll show you guys later. We got a video I'm going to share.
But
Yes.
he's not
Your
like
ultra
he's not
real
like
goal.
this. Like, he doesn't have the body of a Greek god. He has got the body of a CHGO host, and like he's just like this dude that looks like you would like see hanging out at your neighborhood dive bar,
Yeah.
playing darts, and he's one of the best goal scorers of this generation.
Yep.
Good for him.
It
I
would
love me
be
some Phil
so
Kessel.
much fun to cover him.
And he said he plans to play next year. Doesn't know where it's going to be, but I hope it's Chicago.
Hey,
745 Moto fan says, no Phil Kessel, he'll just eat up cap space. It doesn't matter. They've got all the cap space in the world.
You know how much cap space he ate up this year? $1.5 million.
Yeah, it'd be a 1-year deal for $2 million, and
Cap
then
space
he goes
doesn't
one
away.
matter.
quarter of the deal that Andreas Athanasiou signed.
Right.
Don't worry
Yeah,
about
cap space
it.
is not a concern.
doesn't. You have to get to the cap
Don't
floor somehow.
worry about it.
And yes, Phil Kessel will do a lot of eating in Chicago, but cap space is not not what we're worried about.
Exactly.
Also, beyond like the jokes about his physique, which are fun and plentiful, it's a kind of dude like for all those people that want to bring in the experienced leader and all those things. Like, he's another one that checks that box, and it's not going
Three-time
to be
Stanley Cup winner.
It's not going to be his locker room when he comes in or anything like that. He'd just be another influential voice and a good dude. Everyone who plays with him loves him. I just think it's fun.
And not that the Blackhawks need any reason to sell more tickets next season already. They have one coming in 2 weeks. But you got Phil Kessel on the 1,000 point chase. So
you go.
first couple of games of the season, keep the Iron Man streak going, and then you get 1,000 points eventually. There's a celebration.
Another Hawks milestone
Yeah.
for a guy who's never going to be remembered as a Hawk.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
like Peter Bondra. I'm for it. It'd be fun, and he'd have to pick a different number. I know he's been 81 most of his career.
Can't be 18.
Can't
He could
be
wear-
18.
he
Can't
could
be
wear
81.
8.
He could be 8.
8's available, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It could be 8. It could be 80. Whatever. Be whatever number you want. And yeah, I'm for it. It's probably not going to happen. I doubt it, but I'm going to pitch it every
It's
day.
not at all what the Hawks want.
No,
Spent,
but you know
spent
what?
all off season wishing it last summer. I'll do it all over
There's
again.
worse jobs you can have than just stand in the circle and wait for Connor Bedard to set you up for a
Sure.
one timer.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. Well, we do got to get him a beef sleeve. That's for sure.
The beef
One
sleeve.
way or another, we'll get it in Vegas Golden Knights colors if we have to.
Yes, and I know where you can get the beef
Golden
sleeve.
beef sleeve.
Now that the hockey season is officially over, all 32 teams are hitting the links starting today. Well, maybe not Vegas. They're a little sleepy today.
They're hitting
I
the
imagine.
strip. That's for sure.
But when you're ready to hit the links and when you're ready to order your own beef sleeve, that's where our pals at Pins and Aces come in. Pins and Aces is the official golf apparel partner of ALLCITY and CHGO. We love our Pins and Aces gear and get tons of compliments on and off the course when we're wearing it. They are a family-owned golf and apparel business. They make amazing polos, hats, golf bags, and even our favorite, it's technically the beer sleeve, but we call it the beef sleeve because we tested it. It's an innovative product that allows you to store up to 7 beers, keep them cold, or 4 regulation beef sandwiches and keep them warm right inside your golf bag, so you can keep either drinking cold beer or eating hot beef your entire 18 holes. So check out Pins and Aces. Use the promo code CHGO, and you're going to receive 15% off your first order and get free shipping. I want to tell you, I was wearing my Pins and Aces lightweight hoodie that I got from them on my walk this morning, and their customer service is out of this world. When I ordered that, I remember I used the wrong promo code, and I told them about it, and they refunded me the money and the difference of the promo code like within an hour.
Nice.
So great customer service, great products. Use that promo code CHGO, and you're going to get 15% off your first order and get free shipping at pinsandaces.com.
And if you're looking for some licensed sports merch, there's no better place to go than foco.com. You can get fitted out in the best sports gear around: hoodies, shoes, signs, bobbleheads, and everything in between. Baseball season is here. Get your Aloha shirts, your straw hats, your polos, your bags, everything you need to look sweet, look dope, as the kids say, at Wrigley or at Guaranteed Rate Field. They've donated awesome set decorations to us here. As you look around the CHGO set, you can see the impact Foco has had with us here. We thank them for that as well.
I need some
Check
new
out
bobbleheads.
foco.com or click the link in the description below. For all non-presale items, use the promo code CHGO for 10% off. Again, that's foco.com, FOCO.com, and use that code CHGO for 10% off all non-presale items. So,
Charlie says, do you think Phil puts bacon on his hot dogs?
Yes.
I absolutely believe Phil puts bacon on his hot dogs.
absolutely.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah. I had what was that? Place called Parky's. Is it maybe Oak Park, somewhere in that area, that general area? And I had never been there before, and I saw it. I'm like, I'm going to check this place out. Pulled in, and I saw it was like a bacon-wrapped cheddar dog.
Oh,
Like, I'll have that, please. And I saw that they deep fry the thing.
Oh.
I was like, well, get the defibrillators out. And it was amazing, though.
This reminds me, I have a place for you to stop in for your other show.
Okay.
There's a hot dogs, Irv's for red hot lovers in lovely Wilmette, right down the street from me, has what they call the tater keg. It is a giant tater tot that is filled with cheese and bacon. You cut into it, and it just oozes out.
Thanks for joining us today on the CHGO Blackhawks
I'm headed
podcast.
to
I'll talk
Wilmette.
to you, everybody, tomorrow. You guys got it from here.
See, I knew I'd get you to visit the new house some way. I just didn't know how.
That's all you had to say.
amazing.
You had me a tater.
I didn't realize they had it until yesterday.
Tater.
I went in there for the first time yesterday, or
Tater
Monday.
keg.
A tater keg.
Oh, my God.
That's amazing.
That reminds me of the Avalanche nachos at the DNVR bar where they just opened up the bucket and all the nachos
Yeah, it
came
was like a
out.
it was like a Folgers can of nachos.
It was so good. They were so messy.
That was
Oh,
great.
I need to go back there and have some.
It was someone said it. Park Forest or Forest Park is correct. Thank you, Nate.
Oh, okay. I know
That's
the
all the
place.
same.
Yeah, Forest Park.
It's got like a hand, like it's an old sign with a hand holding a hot dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
I've been.
nice.
Yeah. I used to be a semi-regular in Forest Park back in the day on Madison.
Yeah.
The strip of bars there. In a different lifetime.
On my way into work yesterday, I passed by a hot dogs and Italian beef place. That was Jay's Hot Dogs and Italian Beef, and I was wondering why you had never told us about your restaurant.
Oh yeah. So I'm save energy, Monergy. That's my business. By the way, Design Love says, "Oh my God, Parky's! It was awesome. Parky's is still open, unless he's thinking of something else.
Did they move?
Nope, it's been there forever. Anyway, Bex wants to know, is
as
there
the resident Bears guy, we don't say that word. No disrespect to the business, but
the hot dog joint was there before he slandered the name.
You're the resident Bears guy, but right for the next 30-something minutes, you're still a Hawks producer.
I got you. And you guys keep talking about this food, and I'm going to walk off with Jay. So.
Yeah,
we're going to cut this podcast
All
short.
right, yeah. That's Jay's other show.
We're going to lunch.
All right, well, as the offseason has officially begun, last night I went on our DraftKings and checked out the odds for the Stanley Cup for next year. You guys want to venture a guess at some of the favorites? First of all, where do you think the Hawks are?
Oof.
31st.
They're not. I'm going to say they're not 32nd.
So there's multiple teams that have the lowest odds.
Okay, are they part of that group?
They are among that
Okay.
group. It is San Jose, Arizona, Montreal, Anaheim, and Chicago.
Interesting.
their
That's
odds
the
go
top
up.
5 picks.
Yeah. I wonder if that fluctuates after the draft.
That's a good point because you can't.
That's true. You can't factor
You don't
in.
know who's on the roster.
Yeah.
Right. True that.
Let's revisit those odds on like July
on
5th.
Thursday.
Yeah. Columbus plus 20,000. By the way, all those teams I mentioned are plus 25,000. Columbus is plus 20,000. Philly plus 15,000. Then everything else becomes a lot more reasonable. Your favorites.
I'm going to say up there is Colorado, Edmonton, Vegas, obviously.
Yeah.
And
Toronto is probably
Toronto,
still going to be in the top.
Is
few.
Boston still up there? Carolina? Yeah, anyways.
So the two favorites are Colorado and Boston, both plus 800. Toronto is plus 900. Edmonton plus 1,000. The Devils and Hurricanes are plus 1,200. Vegas is plus 1,300. Rangers plus 1,400. Panthers plus 1,400. And then Dallas and Tampa plus 1,600.
That
I
Panther money is good value there.
I don't like Boston that high. Boston as the co-favorite.
That's wrong.
Because they're not going to be the same team next year.
No.
They're going to be likely without Bergeron and Krejci.
You're not going to have Tyler Bertuzzi.
Right. Like they're not gonna be the same team. They wasted that season. That was their shot.
Yep.
I would not take that at plus 800. That's terrible. That Panthers at plus 14. That might be some good value because I don't think the Panthers are going away anytime soon.
How about Dallas at plus 1,600?
Yeah, they're also a team that's kind of like maybe got one more shot in them.
Yeah.
With this group.
See what they
so
do
it'll
in
be
the off
interesting.
season.
Yeah.
They're going to have a little bit of money to play around with. I think about $6.5 million in cap space. So you can, that's enough to bring back a Max Domi and make a run for it.
You could.
Yeah. The Blue Jackets at, what did you say, 20,000?
Plus
Yes,
20,000. Yeah, they're one step ahead of the group.
I mean, they're not going to win the cup, though.
No, but if they were, what are the odds of them making the playoffs? If they have like good odds, like that could be a good value bet because they're not going to be that bad next year.
Yeah, I don't see any playoff odds yet.
They shouldn't
just
have been
have
this
cup.
bad this year. They're going to get Mike Babcock.
Oh, but now they have Mike Babcock. And
yeah, but they've got Ivan Provorov. They're going to be awesome.
Yeah, sure. I don't know.
And Damon Severson. They're going to be better defensively.
Yeah.
They're going to be better, too, just because they're healthy.
Hopefully, yeah.
If they stay healthy.
For them.
Sure,
I mean, I don't want Columbus to do anything.
In unison.
Especially if they're hiring Babcock, which isn't official yet, but I believe the only reason that's not officially official is because his contract with the Maple Leafs expires July 1st. So
yeah, it'll be
they're
official
waiting
on the
that
1st.
so they don't have to, pay the Maple Leafs anything or something like that.
Yeah.
So
I think Edmonton is always a fine bet. If they can shore up the holes that they've had for the last few years.
Edmonton, I don't think they can make it work with the cap, but if they could figure out a way to trade for Connor Hellebuck, look out.
My God. Yeah, I mean
that's the move.
That's the move for them.
That would be the move, but how do you get out of the situation
I
they're
just
in?
don't know how you do that without giving up something of major value.
What does Hellebuck make? Do we know? I'm looking at Edmonton now. Let's see.
Connor Hellebuck currently.
He's only got 1 year. So
6.1. So let's say 6.2.
6.1 and change.
Zach Hyman makes 5.5. Evander Kane makes 5.1. Nugent Hopkins makes 5.1. He's signed forever, though.
Well, the Jets are definitely not taking Evander Kane.
No.
And I don't think they want any of those guys. They're going to want younger players.
All those guys are signed with massive term.
Yeah.
You're not going to trade Yamamoto, I wouldn't think. Maybe, though. He's an RFA after this year.
For Connor Hellebuyck, I would.
Yeah.
For Hellebuyck, you'd make it work.
Yeah. I mean, it's doable.
Well, how much cap space do they have heading into the year?
Let's see. Right now it says they have $5 million in change of cap space.
Right.
Part of their problem is they have committed $7.6 million to both Stuart Skinner and Jack Campbell until the end of the 25-26 season.
Traded Stuart.
Another $5 million for another year.
If you're trading
Jack Campbell after that.
If you're trading for Connor Hellebuyck, you give him Stuart Skinner to get Connor Hellebuyck.
Plus, it's going to be, and then you're saying, well, you got like $11 million locked up in goal, but what are the odds that Hellebuyck resigns?
Then you try that, right? And then
I think someone will take I guess not. Jack Campbell's what 30.
Jack Campbell's 31.
Yeah, so he's not.
You're also you have no draft assets. You have one pick in the first 5 rounds this year.
It's a pipe dream, but if they could figure out a way to make that work, get a third team involved or something, or one of those teams gets to it. I mean, I would give up.
That's a Vegas type move to have to do something like that.
I would. Well, I mean, they should have gotten the Kings involved because apparently the Kings are all in favor of giving stuff up and not getting anything in return. I would give up. I like Stuart Skinner. I think he's going to be a good goalie for a long time. But I would give up 8 years of Stuart Skinner for 1 year of Connor Hellebuyck in a Stanley Cup. I guarantee you, everybody in Edmonton would.
Yeah.
So Yamamoto, Skinner, and then throw in a pick or something.
Yamamoto,
is that enough
Skinner,
for the Jets?
and maybe a prospect.
Well, I don't think the Jets are going to get a ton. Again, this is overvaluing a guy for 1 year. If Hellebuyck had term, if he was under contract for 2-3 years, they'd get more for him.
Winnipeg would do that because they're getting guys with term that they're trying to recalibrate that organization.
And if they trade Dubois, which they
probably will,
they should. I mean,
they'd need a complete reset. You can't go back with that core and think anything's going to change.
You've had 2 veteran coaches who have been around the league forever in consecutive years throw up their hands and say, I can't do nothing with these guys.
Right.
I can't. And, I hear a lot of people with, Dubois as a guy the Hawks should be looking at because he's young and he can peak. I don't want anything to do with it. Is he a good player? Yes, he is.
He's also not going to come here.
No, but he's 24 and he's already on his
second. Would be his third team.
Both by demanding trades.
Yeah,
he's demanded his second trade by age 24.
Yeah.
In a locker room that is, as I said, is got confirmed Pud whacked him rampant in it. And to me, that's one of the guys at the top of the list. No, thank you.
Yeah, I mean,
no, thank you.
It was Columbus and it was Winnipeg. So it's not like it was the Rangers and whatever good organization you want to talk about. But still, 24 years old to already have forced your second trade, that's a huge red flag for me. And we talk about bringing in people to help Connor Bedard. I don't think a guy like that's going to sink Connor Bedard or make him a bad player or anything like that. But just why?
No.
Why even tempt the fates and have some dickhead come in and ruin things for you?
Yeah.
When the vibes in the locker room are good right now.
No,
I wouldn't.
I'm not looking at.
That's the sort of thing. If you are a player away from a cup, and you say, "All right, I think we have the vet." Like if let's say this happened 10 years ago, and the 2013 or 15 Hawks were looking for a final piece to bring in, that makes sense because that's the sort of locker room that can handle a dude like that and say, "Hey, know your role. Shut up. You're our third line center. Win some faceoffs, score some goals, and let's go home." But I don't want him anywhere near a young up-and-coming team.
Yeah,
nope.
No.
Let him go to Montreal, and he can.
A young up-and-coming team.
Yeah, and
but he's kind of.
That's where he wants to be, though.
He's basically expressed. That's where he wants to go.
Yeah.
So.
Which also,
fine.
If I'm, I hate how that sort of obligates Montreal to kind of make it happen. Like, all right, well, I guess we're gonna do this. Like, I hate that.
Yeah, but if that's the only team he wants to go to, then you lowball the hell out of.
Yeah. All right, great. Yeah,
we'll give you. Then you have leverage.
Yeah.
We'll give you a fourth round
pick.
Like
the Rangers did with Patrick Kane. They knew that was the only place he wanted to go. So all right, let's go look in our bin of leftovers and see what we can get for you because you've got no choice.
Right.
Yeah, and Michael says Dubois also wants $9 million AAV. Well, if any team pays him that, they deserve everything they got coming to him. Good player, but
he ain't gonna get that out of Montreal.
No.
They just gave Caulfield a huge raise. They've got Suzuki locked up big time. They gave Kirby Dach a decent contract.
And they're kind of using Suzuki as like the benchmark. Like we're not really going to pay people more than that unless it's like someone
they've got
worth it.
You know, Sapkowski's going to need a second deal here soon. They're drafting another top 5 pick this year. They're not in the position.
It's another thing too, where that's a team who Arrow has pointed up. Even though they're not a good team yet, the feel around the organization is positive. Like everyone knows, in a few years, Montreal is going to be among some of the better teams in the Eastern Conference if they stay on this trajectory. So, I don't know. I think Dubois might just be sitting there with his thumb up his ass because I don't know. I'm not messing with that stuff.
And he's a good player.
He's a very good
player.
But
he's not worth $9 million.
He's what the Hawks kind of need. He's got some size, some skill, you know, but no thank you. No.
Yeah, give me Brock Besser instead.
Career high last season in points with 63 in 73 games. He's top 60 3 times. 63 last year, 60 the year before that in 81 games, and 61 points in his second year in Columbus in 82 games. So, like, yeah, he's a good player.
You want $9 million a year, you got to get me 80 points.
Yeah,
at least on a consistent basis. I'm not paying $9 million a year for 60 points.
No, nor should you. Levante in the chat says, "Did y'all discuss what you want the Hawks to do with their cap space?" We've talked about it a few times.
It's been ongoing.
But since we're on the conversation, we could probably get into it a little bit here because we haven't done much Hawks on the show. I think what they're going to do, you saw it already. They overpaid Andreas Athanasiou by probably $1.5 million, which is totally fine. It's a 2-year deal. He's here to fill a gap, and then he's movable at the end of that contract if they want, or he walks away and it's not a huge loss. I do think you're going to see them take on some veteran contracts, but not so much like the Peter Mrazek sort of a thing. I think they're going to try to get some teams out of cap hell and take on some assets too. That's what we're talking about, like Brock Besser, Connor Garland, guys in that kind of a mold who the Hawks could take on that will help the team, make the team better, obviously deeper, and help them get to the cap floor. And then you'll probably see some free agent overpayments as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is not the summer they're going to go crazy. There's nothing out there that's going to be a foundational piece for the next cup contender. That's not happening this summer. The next 2 summers, 24, 25, that's when you're going to get those guys that could be like the piece, the Marian Hossa, the piece that puts them over the top. A guy that you add to Connor Bedard to make your team go from, on the rise to arriving. But yeah, this summer, look for the same type of guys they brought in last year. They obviously already done one of them, but that guy.
Andreas.
Yeah. I stumble over that name.
Double A,
number 80. What was his number?
89.
89.
That's right. God, the last season seems like it was 2 years ago.
Seriously,
already.
it really does.
But Domi and Anthony C. were brought in last year. Those are the type of guys. Look for them possibly like in training camp, like last year with Jared Tenorti, adding a guy that gets put on waivers.
Yeah.
A veteran guy that gets put on waivers right before the season starts. I look for Davidson to be active with that roster up until opening night. If there's a team that's a contender that gets an injury to a key player in training camp in a preseason game, he could be like, all right, I'm open for business.
Yeah.
Outside of that kid wearing number 98, you're going to have your pick. What do you want?
One name you brought up that I think is interesting is Max Pacioretty. 35 years old, coming off 2 ACL injuries. Looking for probably a 1-year deal to see if he can get his game back a little bit. If he misses part of the start of the season for the Hawks, it's not a huge deal. Can add some offense. That's something like that maybe to keep an eye on, because I can't see a lot of contenders saying we're going to put our hopes in the Max Pacioretty basket at this point.
No, but from what I've heard, Elliot Friedman has talked about I've read it a couple of places. Carolina wants to see if they can bring him back. They really think that he was like the missing piece to that puzzle. They want to see if they can bring him back. Obviously, he's going to be for a much smaller rate than what he was making.
Yeah.
But he is a team that like fits really good on that. We had somebody, I think it was Design Love asked if Alex DeBrincat is worth $9 million. It all depends on the situation. DeBrincat in Carolina would be a fantastic fit. That fits his game perfectly.
That's what they need too.
We saw here with the Hawks, DeBrincat is, and we saw it with the Senators. DeBrincat is a very good player. Now, don't take this as a slam on Alex DeBrincat, but he's not a player that can create his own offense. He needs to be on a line with a playmaker like a Patrick Kane, to where he can just go hang around the left circle and wait for that pass to come and do what he does best and fire off that great shot of his. He can do that in Carolina. Put him on a line with Svechnikov and Aho and just let him just zing in one-timers left and right. That would be a really good landing spot for him. So we'll see.
He's got to be like your second best forward.
Yeah.
At least.
He is not the guy at this point in his career. He's not the guy that's going to drive a line. He can be a 1B to someone like that, but I don't think he's the guy that is your team's best player, your team's best forward. I don't think he's that. He's a good supporting cast for sure.
Nikhil has a good question here about cap creativity. Like the NBA is doing sign and trades where they sign a player and then trade them at 50% retained. The difference I don't know what the rules are in the NHL or the NBA as far as retaining salary. In the NHL, you're only allowed to retain salary on a certain amount of three guys. And the Hawks are already got retention on McCabe. And is there anybody else out there? I don't think so.
Well, the Duncan Keith penalty is out.
You've got the buyouts of Borgstrom and Connolly's still there.
That's not retained, though.
Duncan Keith recapture.
Right.
Yeah, so it's just McCabe.
So you're only allowed 3. So I don't think teams...
2 more.
Teams... I'm sure you could do that. NHL really hasn't done that yet. But I think some of the teams, especially teams that are on the lower half, love to have that retention option because that gets you involved in trades at the trade deadline where you can get a draft pick just for taking on dead cap space. Yeah. So with that limit of 3, salary retentions per season, you're not going to see a lot of that. But maybe one day a team gets creative and says, "Screw it, we're going to do it. We're going to sign this guy and then trade him." But that doesn't make a lot of sense because why wouldn't the team then just sign him anyway? I mean, you're going to get the 50 cent retained.
If you're signing, I don't know what the purpose of retaining would be. If you're signing a player to then trade him, that's not money on your books. You're just signing them. You're signing them to the contract that the team
it would be like
is going to take on.
The Ottawa Senators signing Austin Matthews for 8 years for $10 million or $12 million a year, and then they trade that, but then keep the $6 million a year for half the contract for the entire contract. That just gives you dead. No matter what you get
$6
back,
million of dead money for a guy.
Yeah, you then can't use that cap space to sign you. The NBA has the luxury tax.
Yeah, it wouldn't work.
You
could
go
NHL.
over the salary cap in the NBA if you want to.
Yeah,
there's a hard cap in the NHL, so you can't
creativity is limited in the NHL.
You can't retain 50% of a big contract for 6 or 7 years because that's just dead money. You're hindering yourself for a season or two. You can get away with that. Like the Hawks are in the situation to do that now because they're not worried about cap space.
One thing I'm interested in that the Blackhawks could do that I think would really be beneficial for the idea of development and moving some players forward and not burying any of these young players. Tomorrow is the official opening of the NHL's buyout window, and I wonder if they buy out Nikita Zaitsev.
He's a candidate
because he's on the books for 2 more years, just 1 more year. But that's a guy that he has no part to play in the future of the organization.
He's just taking a spot right now.
He is overpaid, and yes, you do need that money to get to the cap floor. But you buy him out. You buy out his contract. It's on your books for 2 more seasons. The cap hit this year would be $2.833 million. for 23, 24, 24, 25, it's 833,000. It's nothing.
It's a no-brainer.
And you open up a space. We keep talking about how we want to see guys like Alex Vlasic and Alec Regula, Wyatt Kaiser, Isaac Phillips get these opportunities. Yeah. Well, you get Zaitsev out of the way. Basically, you get him out of the lineup. That's another spot that you can open up to bring one of these young guys in. I don't know. I feel like that would be a move that, if I'm Kyle Davidson, I look at and I say we keep money on the books. We open up a roster spot for a player that we're more invested in getting an opportunity this season. I don't know. I think that would be something that they could do.
If they don't sign and trade Zaitsev, it makes me really hesitant. I'm sorry, buy out Zaitsev. It makes me really itchy about signing Caleb Jones. And he's not going to cost much, but now you're talking about 4 roster spots, potentially 5 if you consider Tenori an everyday player, tied up in veterans. I think it makes all the sense in the world to buy out Zaitsev. You give Caleb Jones another deal, and if Isaac Phillips or whoever else comes and earns that job, because it feels like Alex Vlasic has a spot too.
Yeah.
As he should. He's earned it, right? So there's 4 or 5. There's not a lot of open spots here. So buy out Zaitsev, give Caleb Jones another short-term deal for a couple years, whatever, a couple million, and call it a day. I don't know. I saw enough from Caleb Jones underneath Luke Richardson. I've seen enough growth in his game to think there might be more there. Mm-hmm. And he's still young. He's 26. Zaitsev is 31. He's just not a fit here. Nothing against the guy. He came in and was fine. He didn't cost the Hawks in any way, shape, or form, but he's just a guy out there. He's just taking up a spot.
Right.
If someone's going to take up a spot, a veteran, I want it to be someone who could potentially still have some room to grow with this organization. I think Caleb Jones has been pretty solid, especially over the last season.
You can argue that no player progressed more from opening night to the end of the season than Caleb Jones did last year.
Yeah.
Yep.
Both Caleb and Seth have benefited from Luke Richardson.
That coach, Luke Richardson and Kevin Dean, man, they did great things with those two guys.
Yeah.
It gives me a lot of optimism into the future with all these young defensemen coming, that they're going to be able to help them.
Yeah.
Zaitsev, we're already hearing tank commanders. Next year's not a tank season. Let's knock that off.
Next year's not.
There's no expectation to win, but let's not do another season where we all get mad after every win.
Next year's not necessarily. They're not. I'll say this. I'll wait till 4th of July to really say, are they tanking, or is it just going to be we're going to ride out this season and see what happens? Because if the moves they make at the opening of free agency or anything are any indication that they're tanking, then maybe we're in a situation where it's going to be Connor Bedard, Lucas Reichel. They're going to be the main attractions while everyone else tries to lose games. I don't think that's going to be the case, though. I think next year is going to be a younger team, it's going to be a learning year, and I think with those with those qualifications on the season, you're not going to win many games in the NHL. Who knows? They might surprise. We might be talking about a team that is flirting with, a few games out of a wild card spot by the time it comes around to Christmas. But, I just don't think next year is necessarily we are bottoming out again.
No.
You talk about the nature of the fan. Corey's talking about tank commander, and then we got Robert here earlier in the chat saying, if the Blackhawks don't win the Stanley Cup next season, I am officially done with them forever.
Just save yourself time and just go now.
I'll take Robert's spot.
But I envision them to flirt with a top 5 pick again next year, but it's not going to be as deliberate as it was this season.
Yeah.
Hey, if they piss off the hockey world and somehow get the number 1 overall pick again.
Oh, no.
Hey, if there's 2 drafts to win back-to-back so you don't win it for the next 5 years.
This is the one to do it.
These 2 coming up are
I wouldn't be against it.
Win.
I just don't want to go through 82 games of people getting mad. You know who you are. Every time they won. And it was all a waste of energy because here we are 2 weeks away from getting Connor Bedard. And yes, they're not going to, and Corey finishes, but don't want to rush to rebuild like the Rangers. They're not going to rush anything, but they're just not, it's not going to be as
deliberate,
bad on purpose as it was last season. They're not going to be good. They're not going to contend for a playoff position. They're not going to go out and make stupid free agent moves this year.
They're not going all in,
but they're also not
next season.
Yeah, they're also not going to be like Connor Bedard or bust, even though it really was never Connor Bedard or bust, but it kind of sort of was.
Yeah, it was shoot for Connor Bedard and maybe land at Adam Fantilli.
Yeah, so next year is just going to be, as you said, about more young players. We're going to get more guys up here that matter, but there's going to be the growing pains.
Yeah,
and there's going to be a mix of veterans. And then there's plenty of good storylines to watch. What does Taylor Radish do?
Yeah.
You know, how does he progress? What Boris Kachuk do we get next season? Is he going to be the guy that had zero confidence and didn't look like he belonged in AHL that we saw for most of the season? Or is he going to be that guy that was maybe one of their best players for the last 6 weeks of the season?
He was good.
There's going to be a lot of stuff to talk about next year. You get a Connor Garland or a Brock Besser, that makes things a little more interesting. They're going to be more competitive. Not that they weren't competitive last year. They definitely tried to win games.
Yeah,
but they're going to win more games that they don't deserve to win next year because you have Connor Bedard.
I would much rather go through a growing pain season than a tank season.
Yeah, because I don't want to be hand-wringing over the points and the schedule and the standings.
No, we're not doing that this year.
No, there's not going to be a tank standings. There's not going to be draft spins after every game. That was fun, but my God, that got so stressful the last 6 weeks of the season. Like, it was ridiculous. I don't want to do that again.
Yeah, it'll be nice and it'll be more relaxing to just be like, well, they're fifth from the bottom. Oh well, like because I think. This past season, we were so focused on Connor Bedard and have been for the last year and a half, 2 years, knowing where the franchise is, where it needs to go, and everything, and how important of a piece he would be. I think now, knowing he's in the organization, knowing the young players that they have coming up, young guys that they're going to have the ability to draft this year and in the 2024 draft and beyond, it makes it, I guess, less weight would be put on of like they have to land 1 or 2 in next year's draft. Like they could finish 7th, with the 7th best odds and potentially still win it. That's how the lottery works.
Yeah.
But they could finish with the 7th best odds and get someone who's like, they're a top 10, top 5 first round talent. You add that to the mix, like it's gonna be fine. And that's really the effect that getting through this past season and getting Connor Bedard has on looking to the future. It's like it takes some of the tension out because you're like, well, this top end player is coming in to this already budding group. Like, the people worried about rushing things or anything like that, like they're not. Davidson's not in that mindset, and what's already here is looking pretty good.
If anything, the addition of Connor Bedard does take a year off the rebuild, but it takes a year off the back end of the rebuild. It doesn't change the plan this year.
Yeah, nor should it.
And it, as you said, now that you have Connor Bedard, or you're going to in 2 weeks, the need to get a top 3 pick next season isn't as great as it was this past season. Mm-hmm. And hey, maybe you land there too, and that's gravy. But if you're picking 5th or 6th or 7th or 8th next year because of the lottery, guess what? You still have Connor Bedard on your team.
It'll be
and you've got
fine.
Kevin Korchinski coming and Frank Nazar and all these other guys and all the guys we picked this year. Be fine.
Yeah. Thank you for the reminder, Greg. Speaking of Connor Bedard, I shared this video with you guys today of this goal I scored in NHL 98 with Connor Bedard. 98. He's 98. NHL 23 with Connor Bedard. Look at that.
Yeah.
Tackled by Ray Bork and Joe Sakic. Falls down. His leg dislocates. But Connor Bedard still has the presence of mind to poke the puck behind Patrick Waugh. That's easy to say.
If that's not how he scores his first NHL goal, he's a bust.
I love that he's playing against a team that existed before he was even born.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
It was so I was going through. You go through the challenges, and the challenge was you had to score 2 shorthanded goals, but only take 1 penalty. So I had to score 2 shorties and one
PK.
and one penalty kill. So I went in and changed all my penalty kill lines. So like I got Bedard, I got like a souped up Reichel, Kane, Kaprizov, and I had Stan Mikita and Kendall Coyne Schofield. I had the speed out there, and I finally got the thing done. So there was my Connor Bedard
awesome.
goal. But you had to beat the Avalanche alumni.
That's great.
Which was cool. That was fun.
I love the realism of the NHL games now, where like literally you can be falling onto your face, like you can toe pick and still snipe it like 100 miles an hour top corner, with, like no problem.
Yeah,
like the
you haven't seen that happen.
The EA games are getting really ahead of themselves with all the goofy shit you can do while falling down. Did you see the Madden? I think it's the Madden 24 trailer. Like Patrick Mahomes is like just throwing sidearm 60-yard bombs while falling out of bounds. Like, it's the dumbest shit I've ever seen. That game already exists. It's called NFL Street. You can play it on the original Xbox.
Yeah,
It was awesome.
I think gamers, though, have gone from, at least in the sports genre, wanting it to be as realistic as possible to now backtrack and going, I want to be able to do crazy video game stuff.
Hey, bring back NHL hits.
There should be
Midway Sports.
There should be
get back in production.
Yeah, there we go. What was it? NHL Hits. Was that the one with Pat Foley?
No, that was Open Ice.
Open Ice.
Still one of my favorite games
and then
ever.
There was Wayne Gretzky?
Wayne Gretzky 3D Hockey was Nintendo 64.
They were essentially the same games.
They were a little different.
The Open Ice one was more
like NBA Jam.
Yeah.
Where you would get on fire, and that game was awesome.
We had a date night at the Galloping Ghost. Shout out in Brookfield, the amazing arcade, and
so great.
I found both of those games, and we were there for like 3 hours. I think half of my time was between Wayne Gretzky 3D Hockey and Open Ice.
Me too. And my third game that I love is WrestleFest.
Yeah,
but the one at Galloping Ghost, the screen's kind of janky. Yeah. So get that fixed.
WrestleFest was good. And then I spent a lot of time playing the old Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom video game that I forgot about. Yeah,
nice.
I'm gonna have to go back there after Nashville. That was great.
That's so fun.
Great way to spend an evening.
Yes, I'm a big fan of the beercades. That's for sure.
Yeah. Another great way to spend an evening is on DraftKings Sportsbook. Download that app. Use the code CHGO. New users can make a $5 bet and score $200 in bonus bets instantly. We told you about the NHL Stanley Cup futures. Maybe put a bet down today. If there's some long odds you like, you think some team's going to be good in free agency, do that. You've got baseball underway, of course. There's so much going on in the world of sports. So many wagers to make. Do it on the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Again, use that code CHGO, and new users can make a $5 bet and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In Massachusetts, call 800-327-5050 or visit gamblinghelplinema.org. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Kansas, call 800-522-4700. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 plus in most eligible states, but age varies by jurisdiction. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details and state-specific responsible gambling resources. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply. Terms at sportsbook.draftkings.com/hockey terms. I don't know why I can't get that URL right. Sportsbook.draftkings.com/hockey terms.
You got it.
There you go.
You got it.
Out of practice. We haven't had that in a while.
Yeah. Haven't had that for a little bit. Hey, the Vegas Golden Knights, again, congratulations, Stanley Cup champions. I saw the party was going on in Vegas last night. I don't know how many Goose Island beers are available on the Vegas Strip, but I know
how many beers period are available on the Strip after.
Yeah, they're running low, I'm sure. But I know if and when the Blackhawks celebrate their next Stanley Cup championship in the city of Chicago, there will be plenty of Goose Island because they are Chicago's beer and have been since 1988, and they are the proud beer sponsors of us here at CHGO. I know I would love to drink a Goose IPA right out of the Stanley Cup, the 6-time medal winner at the Great American Beer Fest, always in style. You got the full pocket pills, the everyday beer, what the Goose Island brewers are drinking. You got the Tropical Beer Hug, the dry hopped Imperial IPA with a 9.9 ABV. And of course, Stanley Cup might be big and silver, but you got the big gold 312, the wheat ale, the staple of the Goose Island beer lineup. You can get all of those beers and more at their original brew house, ultra fresh, exclusive beers on Clybourne Avenue in Lincoln Park, or you can go to their tap room, which is on Fulton Street, nearby our offices here in Westtown. Again, that's the Goose Island Beer Company.
All right. Drink them down. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 2. Thanks to Greg for running the show today. We're back at 2 on the CHGO Blackhawks podcast.